Hi, and welcome to the Easy Marketing Guide on the Listen Up Network. I'm your host, Julie Niehoff, with real marketing advice for small business and nonprofits.
And I'm CJ Niehoff, and we ask that if you like what you hear, that you subscribe to our channel to get up to date with the latest additions to the Easy Marketing Guide.
You can also visit our website at theeasymarketingguide.com for links to our companion publications, as well as free downloads that pertain to today's segment. Okay, welcome. This is episode 107, and today we're talking all about the life of a freelancer. Does that sound fun to you, CJ?
That does sound fun. Would you like to hear a fun fact?
Always.
Word origin of freelance, early 19th century, from Sir Walter Scott in Ivanhoe.
For real?
For real.
Okay.
Is a freelance is a mercenary, so they don't adhere to any country. They're a freelance.
Oh,
and
it's never occurred to me that word makes no sense.
And then it went from a noun to an adjective in the modern times. That's what it's from. That
is actually a really good fun fact.
I'm glad to be a part of your day. So we have Emily Leach,
who is sort of a Pied Piper of freelancers. She's based here in Austin, but she was the founder of the Texas Freelance Association, and she created the Freelance Conference, which I'm excited to talk to her about because it's become a pretty popular event.
And one of the first TEDx persons as well.
Oh, that's right. In Albuquerque, I think she was involved with TEDx.
That's correct. She was, and just a lot of fun. She was a lot of fun to have in and a lot of fun to speak with. So
we're going to have PK Munson in, who is a freelance camera operator in the film industry, and I know you're excited to talk to him.
PK's a buddy, and I'm glad he came in out of his busy schedule because he has an amazingly busy schedule with he shoots movies, so he's the camera operator.
And I kind of hold him in a high regard as a successful freelancer
and as a human being. The guy's cool.
Oh, he's super cool.
Really
Very
nice. Cool. But he's got a wide breadth of work, and he is the ultimate in freelancing. Has been doing it for 20 plus years. His reel, I did his reel for him, and it's really quite amazing how much work he has done over the last 20 years. And he does currently all the stuff for Robert Rodriguez and his movies and TV series, all the Dusk to Dawns, the Sin City movies, Revolution. He was on Boyhood. He would think he was on the first 5 years of Boyhood, which won an Academy Award, and currently he's slated to, he's going to be the camera operator for the James Cameron production. Robert Rodriguez is directing of Alita Battle Angel, which is the biggest production in Texas history, $200 million and counting.
Yep.
And between the two of them, it should be a pretty fat show.
Yeah. Emily and PK both. I'm excited. This will be a good show. Let's get started.
All right.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Julie Niehoff, and I'm your host at the Easy Marketing Guide. And today we are hosting Emily Leach in the studio. Welcome, Emily. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Emily is the founder of the Freelance Conference that's based in Austin, Texas, right?
Yes, it is.
And you also started, as a sort of an outgrowth of that, the Freelance Association, right?
The Texas Freelance Association, yes.
Okay. Do you want to tell me a little bit about those organizations and what you do?
So the story goes that I had started a different group here in Austin on Facebook called the Austin Freelance Gigs. And it kind of came out of yet another group. But it was an opportunity to bring freelancers into one spot and then let people that were trying to find freelancers find them.
Great.
Right?
Good.
And so we could, and then when someone came in and posted, hey, I need a graphic designer, those of us that knew graphic designers could say, hey, use this person or use that person, right? So it worked out really well. I mean, it was growing like nobody's business. And I decided I would love to be able to go to a conference with other freelancers. Not an industry conference or whatever, with other freelancers and finally be around my peeps. The people that aren't telling me to get a job, all that kind of fun stuff. And I literally got up and walked across the room and got my credit card to go back and do the research and find the conference that I was going to go to. Because all of them were out there, so I thought, and it wasn't.
Oh, you couldn't find any?
I couldn't find any.
Oh, wow.
I found a couple that had been attempted a year or two back. One of them was done all virtually, and the other one was done like out at Stanford. And they were, I don't know that I would have went to them anyway. So I'm like, wait a minute. I've done TEDx events now for 4 or 5 years. I was a co-founder for one that has now become the largest one in the country. and I've been a freelancer since 1992. How hard could this really be? The answer is hard.
It's real hard. I was going to say, let's not sugarcoat this, Emily.
But that's kind of my default, right? I was like, I got this experience. How hard could it be? And I just started doing stuff, for better or worse. And in the process, so that was about the middle of July 2014. We had our first conference about 90-ish days later.
Wow.
October.
Not a long turnaround.
Not a long turnaround. When I decided to do something, I'm like, let's just do this.
You are a throw your hat over the fence kind of girl. I like that.
I kind of am. But then again, if you look at what happens in Austin, it was like, okay, if I don't do it before November, then I have to do it after June because of all the stuff that happens, right? Now, I wasn't willing to wait that long. So I was like, all right, I guess here we go.
Did you start small or did you go for it?
I started small. Okay. I did it all just whoever I could reach with my voice.
Good.
Which was pretty much just people in Austin. We had a couple of people from Dallas, and I think a person or two from Houston came in. And so we had 100 people. And we had
a good turnout.
Yeah. 6 or 7 speakers, I think. And a good friend of mine, which I think you know too, Elijah May, came in and did a forum on clients from hell. So much fun. As a freelancer, you've probably had at least 1 or 2, and if you haven't, well, just buckle up. They're coming.
Or you might be 1 or 2.
Or you might have been that client from hell. And if you are that client from hell,
we're not here to judge.
Yeah, we're not here to judge. Just know that you have some responsibility in it. But getting back to the point is, through that process, a lot of people in Austin, because I was new in Austin, I'd only been here a couple of years.
Sure.
A lot of people began to get to know who I was. And then I finally had this voice. Who's this chick that's standing up talking about freelancing, and who the hell does she think she is, right?
Yeah.
And so some of us started getting together around a room and said, what if we had like an organization that pulled freelancers together, and with a voice, could we do more? And well, I don't know, but I know there's only one way to figure it out, and that's to go do it.
Love it.
And so we started a nonprofit, and it's called the Texas Freelance Association. And that
great.
started about, 4.5, 5 months after the first conference.
Wow. And that's a whole other learning experience too. That's another hat thrown over the fence.
It was a hat. Yes, it was. And there's still days where I'm like, really, was this my best idea? And now, having seen, and I get the emails, or I see people in town or around the state even, and they're like, so you're the one that started this? Yeah. It's like, yeah. It's like, thank you so much. I've had people send me messages. I wouldn't be a freelancer today. I wouldn't have ever started freelancing. My income has tripled, my whatever, because of advice, because of things that I've learned, because of the community that you've built that I can go and.
Perfect. You're a perfect example of what on the show we call earning your luck. I love that you threw your hat over the fence and tried it and built something that if you needed it, other people needed it too. And that's a common theme that comes up a lot with a lot of the people that we talk to, not just on the show, but, people that I've worked with and classes that I've taught and events that I've planned and all of that. It's common.
It takes a certain something.
Now, your success is not common. I mean, that's an uncommon and wonderful thing to see, that you came from, there's not a conference like this, to being, it's one of the leading conferences. It's big. It's a big deal.
Right. Well, it's pretty much the only conference in the, I guess there is another one that's attempting to start up, but it was definitely the first, and it's really the only conference of its kind that we really focus on just the business of being a freelancer. So it's regardless of your industry, come and hang out and be with your peers and take a day, or it's now 3 days, take 3 days and focus on your business.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's another. This may be a whole different segment of the show. People who have freelance jobs or who work freelance are actually small businesses, and we've talked about that a little bit, you and I. So I know you agree with me, but it's a flag that I'm willing to carry with you, for you, because you are your own business, and so often people that are freelancers are thinking, I don't have a job, or they're hearing you don't have a job. But yes, you do. You're running your own business, and you've found a way to have freedom and not be in a cubicle all day, every day.
It's funny. I was just on a Blog Talk Radio the other day, and that was one of the things that we talked about is the host of it was talking about how people tell you, well, someday you'll finally get a job, or someday you'll finally get a real project. I'm like going, wait a minute, this one pays me real money. So I don't understand,
Yeah, I'm making money and I'm providing a service or
paying my bills with real money.
I'm an adult. I make my own doctor appointments, which is
Some
a
don't.
line. I mean, I think that's the moment where you're an adult. So when you're paying your own bills and you make your own doctor appointments, then you're a grown up,
And going to the grocery store.
And going to the grocery store. Yes, agreed. And your mom's not doing your laundry. Not that I don't do my kids' laundry, so they have to do it. But
I know I didn't do my son's either.
Yeah. I didn't want him to get to college and not have clean clothes, so it's important. Very important. So I have heard you say in the past that by and large, many freelancers are introverts, whether they realize it or not.
It's very true.
Can you speak to that a little bit? Are there other common things that you see among people who work in a freelance lifestyle? It's a lifestyle now. I just dubbed that.
It is. You really are. In fact, a lot of freelancers will tell you that they run a lifestyle business, right? And I was just asked that question the other day too, what is a lifestyle business? And I said, well, for a lot of people, it is, I have a business that I work as hard as I need to make the money that I need to support my lifestyle.
I like that answer.
Right?
That's a great answer.
Whereas you have other people that decide that they're going to just totally work their butt off for 3 or 4 or 5 years and build something that they can sell or they can cash out in, and then they live their lifestyle. So they're both lifestyle businesses. They just go about it a different way. Sure. So other things that really classify, I guess, or stand out as far as freelancers are very lifestyle oriented, very freedom oriented. Most of them, you can ask the question, what makes you tick? What makes you tick? And they'll say freedom. Very few actually will say money.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where that whole lifestyle business comes into play.
Sure. Because you need a little money to have that freedom.
You do need
just
a little bit of money.
But you
and
do need some.
A lot of freelancers are minimalists or
Yes.
run a fairly minimal lifestyle, and it does work in our favor. It does not work in the consumerism's favor. So I think that kind of wraps up what the majority of freelancers are, is they want to have a voice, they want to have control over their life.
And otherwise, I would say they run the gamut in terms of industry and experience and personality. And I mean...
Yeah, the majority, I think, would be considered creatives.
A lot of... Well, and because that's by and large what you think of when you think, who can I hire that can work from their house that I don't need to pay all their benefits for,
Right.
but I can get work done.
Well, and... what things does this business need that they don't need all the time?
Yeah.
That I need a very specialized skill to build a logo, to build a brochure.
Or to make this PowerPoint for me.
Right. Or make my website now do this. So I need, right. So that's probably even more likely where it comes from.
Yes.
I had an interesting conversation with one of the speakers that are coming out to the next conference. And one of the things I loved about her is I said, so what's your stick? And she said, I'm okay with staying small. And so she talked about, being a freelancer, and said it's really, and she's right, it can be really difficult to be a freelancer that doesn't want to grow into an agency, freelance agency, just whatever. She says, I really want my lifestyle. And I said, it's great to be able to give yourself permission to be a freelancer.
That's true freedom to me, that you don't need growth unless it's the kind that you can scale so that it's the same amount of work or the same amount of time devoted to that and still can have your life. And that's got to apply to a lot of people who are parents as well. Are there parents who are freelancers?
Oh, that's my favorite part.
I
And
know.
yeah, I've ran across one or two.
It sounds funny to ask that question.
Freelancing allowed me to be a stay-at-home single mom.
Yeah.
And so that's really probably the root of why I'm so passionate about freelancers, is not only does it allow now single parents to have that option to still be a stay-at-home mom, but it allows so many parents that are still able to parent together. Maybe one of them wants to stay home and be that stay-at-home parent. I shouldn't say mom, because now it's either one. And now there's even more and more where both parents are staying home.
Oh, yeah.
And their kids get so much more out of that, So a lot of us, kind of bitch and moan about the millennials or whatever. And I said, well, a lot of that generation grew up with both parents working. And so there was just a different environment that they grew up in. And those kids, because I have one of those.
Sure.
That, he looks back and he says, well, I don't want to have kids until I know that one of us can stay home with them, kinds of things. And freelancing is going to, I think, be one of the big pieces that allows that to happen.
Where do you think freelance is going?
To
hell in a handbasket. Just kidding. So where is freelancing going?
You think it'll become more and more prevalent as we separate?
I think it is. But I think the bigger reason is not really so much that we're separating. I think it has a lot more to do with it's more accepted in society. Point number one. Point number two is because so many more children are watching their parents live this career.
Yes.
We watched our parents live the 30-year career, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what we thought we were supposed to do. And we thought nothing of it, to go to college and get a job. You know, the only difference for us between high school and getting that supposed 30-year job that didn't actually exist was that most of us went to college, even if it was a 2-year.
Sure.
And like my son, he's like, I'm not going to college. I don't need to do that. I can learn a skill and do my own thing, because
and
that's what he saw.
And that's what he saw. And it goes completely in line with all the people who are like, well, I don't need cable TV. I have Netflix and I have my phone. Why do I need a TV? Why do I need to pay for that? The same mentality that sounds foreign to a lot of people, but it's actually a growth.
Right. So right now, the age group that has the most freelancers that we can tell so far, based on surveys and stuff, would be your 35 to 55. You know, so
okay. So people that trust it enough to be willing to do it.
I think you have a little of both. You have some that just they're the rebels. They go out there like myself, and I'm just going to do it because I didn't know that
you're not making me do that.
Yeah, because they're not. I'm not sitting there doing that, and I don't wear the shoes. I don't wear the shoes. And then you have the ones that maybe they got laid off and couldn't really find a job right away, and so they learn this concept of going and getting a gig. So we don't use the job word that you've used a few times.
Job.
And then they're like, hey, I can do this. I can make a living doing this. Or they, like we talked about earlier, they may have decided to at least attempt to stay home with the child, and then a few months get into it and they're bored because the kid goes to school at some point. Or, man, it sure would be nice to just have an extra $1,000 a month or something. And it's really easy to make that kind of money every month as a freelancer. And you look at that and this is, wow, we just got a $12,000 a year bump in pay, and I didn't have to leave the house for the most part.
And which is why sometimes you get that bump, because you don't have to pay for gas. You don't have to pay for your food every day. You can make your food at home. Where I had an office before, I'd always go out to eat. And all of those things kind of add up to,
All of it adds up. So you don't have to buy the clothes that you had to buy before. You don't have to have them dry cleaned like you had to have before.
Right.
You don't have to wear the shoes. You don't have to drive all over the place. And so you're saving money on gas. You're saving the wear and tear on your car. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to take your kids to daycare if that's a part of the deal. So you don't have to pay daycare.
I mean, you have to make a lot just to cover the daycare to let you have the job.
I know. And
that math makes us crazy.
About around $1,000 a month from what we did.
It's a mortgage for many people to have your child.
Yeah, per kid. And for the couples that whether they do it on purpose, which I don't understand, or accidentally have kids a year apart, 2 years apart, and then
many people do that on purpose,
right, and then don't stay home, right? So then it gets really expensive for daycare. I can't even imagine, actually.
Well, another thing too is like before, when I had a real gig, or I didn't worry. My taxes were just taken out of the thing. I didn't even look at my taxes.
Right.
It was just like, and then so now when I went freelance and I got my quarterly, and it was like, what? WTF? And then I became stealthy tax guy, where it's like every receipt from every gas and food and everything was
and he's German.
Down.
He's not kidding. He keeps track of all of it.
I do too.
That's money, man.
I look at that. That is probably one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
It's a game called the IRS.
Yes. Well, I usually do every year. I'll do something for someone, a nonprofit that I will do for nothing for them, or at least for my cost, and then get a receipt in kind. And so every April 15th, I've got something. You can't. And it's harder to do it now than it used to be 5-10 years ago.
There's regulations around it, and we're not giving tax advice.
Right, we're
at all.
So not giving tax advice.
We're not.
But then you give to the community, and you get back by your taxes at the end of the year, and it's cool. I like doing that.
So how'd you end up in Albuquerque? What's the story there?
Well, let me see. I was 22, I think. I'd have been 23. Don't hold me to that. I was young and naive. And I woke up one Tuesday morning and had a 2-year-old son. And I was sitting there, and I worked for a huge company, and 55-story building downtown Houston. I was sitting there. I even had one of the nice cubicles that looked out the window, looking at 45, beautiful view. And I said, I don't really want to do this. And you know what this kicker really was? I had a pair of contacts in that was itching my eyes, and I'd convinced myself that it was because of pollution in Houston. And so I stood up and I said, I don't want to do this. And so I walked over to my boss and I said, I don't want to do this. And he said, so what do you want to do? I said, there's this really cool town. I've heard this word a few times, and I want to go live there. And he said, where's there? It says Albuquerque. And I couldn't say it any other way. It was Albuquerque. And he goes, so when are you going to do this? So I think I'm going to do it this weekend. So I'm going to quit now. And he said, well, you have, the security was ridiculous back then. So I had to go through all 55 floors and make sure that I had nothing open on any of those. Every floor was its own project. And so I did that, spent the entire day going through all 55 floors and checking out and being done.
Wow.
And on Saturday, I lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Wow.
With no job, no set
jobs,
place to live, just
nothing.
I'm going.
Wow.
Wow.
And a 2-year-old son.
What is it in you that makes you believe you could do that? Because a lot of people wouldn't do it. I love that about you right now. But what was that?
I've always called it naivety. I mean, just because I didn't know. I mean, now looking back, especially having raised my son, I understand that look on my parents' face of what the,
I've seen that look on my parents' face too.
There is a fine line between naivety and bravery.
That's true.
Well, thank you very much, Emily, for coming. It was a wonderful chat.
Thank you.
I'd like to have you back sometime.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I had a freaking blast.
Good.
I really did.
Take care, Emily. Have a good one.
Thank you.
How great is Emily?
Really fun. That was just a lot of fun having her in there.
Very high energy person. I really like talking to her.
And you got to kind of be high energy to be a freelancer. You're always searching for the next thing, and freedom costs.
Yeah, there's no resting on your laurels as a freelancer, which we both know.
Yeah,
personally.
and we have a good example of that is coming up as PK Munson, who has such a wide breadth of work and such a great amount of work that he never rests on his laurels. As a matter of fact, we talked with his wife, and his wife is like, I can't get him to relax.
I'm amazed that you got him to come over, because he's always working, or the little time that he has to himself he spends with his family. So I'm very honored that he's spending some time with us.
Well, let's chat with him.
Here we go. Okay, welcome. I'm really excited to have our next guest in the studio. His name is PK Munson. He's an independent camera operator. And I am focusing on independent because our topic today is the life of a freelancer. Welcome, PK.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Julie.
Very glad to have you here. And I know CJ's excited to talk to you too, because you guys share common interests in film industry and all things video, audio, technology.
I think all three of us are blessed with the love and curse for freelance living.
Yes,
the lifestyle.
true.
It's the way it is, isn't it? You either like it or you hate it.
Yeah. If you want to go
We're
get a job,
just not cubicle people.
if you want to go to the bank, you can do it, or you can gamble.
So PK, you've worked on movies, film, television, things that people have actually watched.
I've been very blessed to work for Robert
Very lucky.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Richard Linklater. Most of the larger productions that come through Austin, Texas, I've been blessed enough to work on.
And you're the guy
And,
behind the camera, right?
I started out as a camera loader, and then I moved up to a second AC, and then a first AC or focus puller for 10 to 15 years. And then in the last 5 to 7 years, I've been going more full-time as a camera operator.
Cool.
Which
Very cool.
Did you have like a moment of clarity in order to do this, or did you always want to be behind the camera, and that was just a journey at that point?
I had a moment of clarity when I got my first job out of UT, and it was for a TV station, KXAN in Austin. And the moment of clarity I had there as a camera operator, first job out of school, was that this isn't going to work. I couldn't
Very
do
nice.
television.
Network, yeah.
Network television's not for me.
Yeah.
Too close to being a cubicle?
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
just
exactly
curious.
what it was, and apparently the job didn't end. You had to come back every week.
Yeah.
Week after week. And it was the morning show. We had to be there at 4 a.m.
Oh,
5 days a week.
No.
And
Well, actually, we're laughing about that, but you do that now. What's the last thing that you finished? Because I know you were telling me you were up at 4 in the morning.
AMC's new series called The Sun. And it's what they're hoping will be their next Walking Dead. It stars Pierce Brosnan, and he is the first son of the Texas Republic, and it's based in 1915 and 1850. Flashes back to him as a youth. He was captured by the Indians. It's all a fictional story. But based on the book The Sun by Philip Thomas, who I have to tell you is an amazing writer, an amazing fellow. He started this whole epic season. Anyway, that's what I just finished, and it's funny how when freelancers all come together, I think you can think of some pretty amazing outlandish things.
Well, and you're at a part of your career where they come to you to a certain extent, but there had to be you're going to be working with James Cameron, who's producing the next thing you're doing with Robert Rodriguez directing, correct?
That's right.
But you had to make that to that point. What did you do before that? Like when you had to scrape for every job at that point, it was
PK
just what's
never
got to
hungered.
Oh, don't even. You would not believe. This boy has hungered plenty. Let me tell you about moving to L.A. when I thought I'm in love with the film industry. This is what I want to do. I'm packing up my truck and I'm moving to L.A. and I'm going to do this. And then the cameraman that invited me out there to do one job, well, he didn't get another job.
Oh, no.
As a result, neither did I.
So is that how it works? Do you have to hitch your wagon to someone else and go along?
Well, I think, when something pulls you in a certain direction, if your life allows you to chase that, then by all means, you probably should if you're interested in it, because...
And it was the love of the profession then at that point that kind of took over. You just kept the nose to the grindstone.
Well, more like I came back home to Austin very miserable and lonely because L.A. was a hard place to find work in. I didn't know many people there. But then I came back to Austin, Texas, and there were some L.A.-based productions starting up in town, and they found out that I just moved back and I had a couple of credits. And they, you're a camera loader. Well, you're hired. And
so when you finish a job and it's the wrap party and you're there, is it like, and you don't have anything lined up?
Does that happen to you?
Oh, sure.
Well, I can imagine you get off something that's pretty wildly popular and pretty cool to do, and then you're like, hey, this is it. Oh, man, I'm living the life. And then, boom, all of a sudden it's like, damn it, I gotta get a job.
I got to find a job.
Man.
So let's talk about that. At that moment, what do you do? How do you market yourself, or do you market yourself? Do you hope? Because hope's not a strategy. We all know that.
No, I go to church on Sunday.
Nice.
Because
that was the first answer of church that
Let
we've
me
had
tell
in
you.
the studio.
Because we're heathens.
there's been so many jobs in my career when I get the job, and I'm just so thankful and in bliss, because you get this really high rush when you get the job, and then you get a similar rush when you end it. And when you just get it, it's such a rush and such a feeling, and then all of a sudden the day before the job starts and you're like, oh my Lord, how am I going to get through this? I might not survive this.
Is that because of the hours?
Yeah, from the hours, and like we were talking about how I think you couldn't do some of these freelance jobs if you knew they were going to last interminably.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't push your body and your mind and your family to go through this.
You sort of have to psych yourself up for
That
it.
brings a very interesting subject of your family is also becomes by de facto a freelance family then, don't you? Because they live and die by how it, I shouldn't say die, but they live and eat.
They live and survive.
Yeah, we have great Christmases or we have slim Christmases.
Right.
So the kids are opening the presents. Daddy's working this year.
Exactly. Popsicle stick dolls.
But then Christmas morning comes and they say, who are you again, Daddy? We haven't
Oh,
seen
no.
you in months.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can trust you to sit on your lap. Those were the early on when they're 2 and 3 years old. I was working out of town and we had to induce her birth so that I could be here. Thanks to the lovely freelance. I tried to come back once and then she didn't come. And so we're like, well,
So you had to force it.
we had to induce and it was all fine. But the sacrifices for freelancing.
Technology.
But you're also following I don't know if are you following a dream?
We have to be on such a schedule that you're like, you got to have this baby now.
I mean, it doesn't even sound foreign to me. We scheduled both of our babies.
We got a call time.
Yeah.
You got to push hard.
Time.
This magic moment needs to happen between 12 a.m. and 12 noon. That's magic when it's going to happen. There we go.
Okay, but I'd like to go back to my other question. How do you market yourself? Do you have a resume that you actually send? Do you have a reel? What do you do?
The Internet Movie Database, IMDb, it's eliminated my need for a resume, which was always one of my hardest things to do. Early on, I remember it was, you'd stay up all night, crank it out so you get the perfect resume.
So what you've done is your calling card.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know I can't think of any other industry off the top of my head where that's the case other than the entertainment.
Sports guys, they always have a reel.
You are what you've done.
Yeah.
And what you've done lately.
Football players have a reel?
Sure.
I guess
sure
they do.
They do.
Oh, of course.
Wow,
in order to go to college. I mean, that's the big thing to...
I learned that from a movie about football.
Well, the Blind Side.
Where they made the little CD.
Yeah.
So what do you do to manage day to day? Do you use technology to keep in touch with your family when you're having to travel? Or
of course, thank God
what do you do?
For FaceTime and texting. And
let me ask you this. How has technology changed your job? And not so much the camera work, because that's more specific to your actual industry, but how has technology, aside from being able to keep in touch with your family and having IMDb, how has it changed managing your career?
What I've done, my whole lifetime resume, it's all there for anyone to look at and cross-reference and talk to anybody that I've worked with my whole life. And it's right there, and you can punch it up. And that's what people do these days. They want to find somebody that they know, that they trust, and say, I can tell that they can cross-reference it and see, okay, this is someone that I'm going to help make $100,000.
Right. Well, let's talk specifically about one of your projects, and that's you did some of the camera work on Boyhood. Is that true? I
was the focus puller for all of the first years.
Okay, so that was what I was getting to, is there were different crews over the years because that was a rare project that went over a long period of time. So how do you manage that? I mean, you're stepping into someone else's shoes, they're stepping into your shoes. That's like job sharing. Have you heard of job sharing, where a lot of freelancers two people take the same job because they only want a part-time job? So they literally cross over each other.
That's a little bit like job sharing, but it's funny when that job came up and they called it the 12-year project, and we thought, finally some job security in our freelance lifestyle. We're going to have a job for the next 12 years.
You got to wait 12 years.
I am ready. And then we realized that each year that we came back, we had to renegotiate, and it was usually for half of our normal rate or worse. So by the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, and seventh year, you're like, oh,
it was a labor of love.
It was a labor of love. I wish I could be there this year, but unfortunately, I have other obligations.
Hey, Academy Award though,
and now it's Academy Award. I wish I could have done all 12 years, but
that's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah. Rick is such an amazing filmmaker. He really. None of us knew what we were doing when we made that film. I think much like Slacker, I bet like his very early on crew in Slacker.
I'm kind of curious about how much of an impact it is for you, the personalities on a set, or when you're having to go on location somewhere and live together for a period of time, how much that plays into your decision to take a job or not, or because the people you're working with for the most part, how much do personalities play?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's too bad there's not an IMDb for freelancers, so that you can look up and find somebody that that's worked with this person that you trust, and find out, can I really spend 80 hours a week with this person, or are they going to drive me nuts?
Right.
Are they going to productive and help us move in a creative new direction? Working in a creative field, it could be as bad as cubicle land, where one or two bad people in the office can bring the whole vibe down, because it just builds
cancer.
So in the film industry, the reason I love it so much is because it's made up of people that have this beautiful vibe for loving what they do it and love it, because it's going to be over.
That's very interesting. When you get done with a production, sometimes the people that you have been so close to for so long, can be 6-7 months sometimes. And then all of a sudden, everybody goes, "Pew," and you never see them again sometimes.
Yeah.
And they're your best friend for that
Right.
6-7 months.
Yep.
It's like a moving family.
And then maybe 7 years later, you work together with them again.
Right.
It's like, oh,
You're right back where you were.
yeah, I know your intricacies, and it's like our industry anyway, built with beautiful people. I mean, 95% of the people in our business are amazing.
Is there, what do you not know at the beginning that you do now that you wish you would have known then?
Boy, I don't know. It's took me 20 years to learn. I don't know. My wife still gets on to me for worrying about the next job coming. I guess if someone could have just told me back then, and someone did. I remember Joe Sanchez very early on the Ward home back in 1995. He said, "PK, you're good. Don't worry. You're gonna work." And my wife's been telling me that for 12 plus years of marriage, and I still worry,
Tweak out.
and freak out, and I go running. That's what I do.
Oh, that's
really?
good.
I run every other day. If I don't run every other day, then I'm freaking out.
PK, just, if you will, just tell us a little bit about the next project you have. You said you're grateful that you always have something coming up. What's coming up?
Wish I always had something coming up. Right now, I'm grateful because I do, and I just finished this last job, The Sun, and now we're starting Alita: Battle Angel. It's an amazing project with Robert Rodriguez, and James Cameron is the producer. Robert's going to direct it. Bill Pope, an amazing cinematographer that did the Matrix series and Jungle Book. He's an amazing collaborator of animation and film, and he's coming into Austin to do the biggest motion picture that Texas has ever seen. It's apparently budgeted for $200 million.
Yes.
Wow.
Something like that. And I'm blessed enough to be the B camera operator on there. And let me tell you, I'm going to church on Sunday.
Yes.
That's
And
the
you're
dream.
running.
That is the dream
job.
That is the dream
it's
How
job.
cool.
Yeah, the A camera operator is an amazing guy, Mark he's from Australia. So to be a local camera operator on something that big and work with an amazing guy like Bill Pope, freelance is paying off.
Well, you're going to have to come back in and talk to us after it hits theaters so we can talk to you about all the great things that happen on that crazy
I would love
set.
to.
Well, here's to freelance.
Thanks for having
Here's
me.
cheers to freelance.
Cheers.
I'll say
Thank you, PK.
cheers.
Thank you very
Thanks
much
so
for
much for
coming.
having me. I'll come back anytime.
Thank you. Okay, always good to talk to PK. I'm so glad he came in.
I love that cat.
Yeah. So do you want to go right into Here's What We Know for this episode?
Let's do it.
All right, here's what we know for episode 107, The Life of a Freelancer. We know that freelancers are small business owners. We know that they rarely rest and are always on the lookout for the next project. We learned the origin of the word freelance, actually.
Ivanhoe.
Let's see. We know that Emily Leach is the founder of the Texas Freelance Association and created the Freelance Conference.
Extraordinary stuff.
We know that PK is going to be working on a new movie that's coming into Texas that's produced by James Cameron. That's a pretty big deal.
Yes, and directed by Robert Rodriguez. Biggest production in Texas so far.
Wow. And what was
$200 million.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. All right. We know that the life of a freelancer is rarely easy, often challenging, and also rewarding, fulfilling, fun. Helps you save money on childcare, shoes, good clothes, and dry cleaning.
You can
I
go
heard
on
that.
vacation when you want.
That's as long as you can afford it.
You just have to give up the work that you would have lost. Or create work when you go to somewhere, which we do often. We go someplace and create work so that we can write it off. Taxes are part of, you have to become a tax expert when you're a freelancer, that you learn how to do that, because otherwise it'll eat you alive.
I will say that you really do add to our lives in finding ways to work when we're on vacation so that we not only can write it off, but gain special access to activities and find, different and experiences that we wouldn't have done but otherwise. And I thank you for that.
The
That's good.
sriracha of life.
And with that, I think we're done with episode 107
It was
of
a
the
good
Easy
show.
Marketing Guide.
I'm very happy with this show. So
Please let us know if you have ideas for the show or want to suggest a guest. You can go to theeasymarketingguide.com and submit your suggestions there. You can also find links and information about all of the episodes we have. Please subscribe if you like what you hear.
thanks. Have a great day.
Peace out. You can do this. Earn your luck.